Hey everybody, this is Boone Wyatt with the 323 Concept Furniture Restoration. This is a third part in our video series on how to repair a power recliner. If you haven't already, check out our video on how to diagnose a power recliner, and that'll show you all the steps that I go through on diagnosing some of the issues that you may have. This video series that I'm doing now, this is more of how to address those certain issues on an actual recliner. If you noticed on that initial video, it was just the mechanism, so I wanted to give y'all more of a visual of what it looks like on an actual power recliner. So the first video we showed you how to replace the power switch and even upgrade that power switch to one with a USB port so you can charge mobile devices. On the second video, I did a quick demonstration on how to install and uninstall the recliner back, just in case you need to maneuver it more easily if you're moving or if you need to do repairs. You'll need to know how to get that back off. So in this video series, in this third part, we are going to be showing you how to remove a reclining mechanism. Now, keep in mind, there's so many different models and there's going to be a lot of different variations between them. The concepts are usually the same. I'll tell you, I've seen a couple different kinds, but the basics are usually the same. There's usually about 3 to 6 screws on each side. There could be bolts. So without further ado, let's jump into this one and see how this one's attached and how we would go about uninstalling that. Okay, so after assessing this mechanism here, so far this has got a steel frame, and not all of them have that. In fact, the majority of the ones I see, they have, your metal mechanism frame, but it usually installs into a wooden seat frame with about 3 to 6 wood screws and maybe 1 alignment bolt. But this one, like I said, they're all different. They're not all the same. This specific one has a nice steel frame going around the perimeter, and that is bolted into the arms, the frame arms. Now, all I'm seeing the mechanism attached to that metal frame is just 2 bolts right here. Sometimes, especially on the ones that attach into the wooden frames, you'll see some around this perimeter right here, maybe 3 to 6, but you'll also see a lot of the times 2 screws coming from the inside, and those can be tricky to find, but you just got to look around, see what you can find there, and that's usually how you get those out. But what you'll do is you'll sort of assess what you're working with and see what kind of bolts are here, and obviously these look to be probably about a number 6, 7, maybe even an 8mm socket. So I'm going to go look at my socket, see what size we've got here, and I'll show you how to uninstall it. Okay, so I found the socket we needed. This is an 8mm socket bit that's going to take these out. Now, something I can recommend to you, especially if you do a lot of furniture work, that's really going to make your life a lot easier, is having one of these socket bit attachments that attaches to your drill. These things are great. This has the impact adapter, so you can put it into your impact driver, but you just put your sockets in there, and then from there you just attach it to your drill. A lot of the times when you're working on mechanisms, it's really going to be to your benefit to have an extension of some sort. In fact, on most mechanisms, this one's a little bit different, but on a lot of mechanisms, I'll have up to a 12-inch extension that'll really get down in there with ease, holding my drill up here. That way I don't have to try to wedge it in there. So without further ado, I'm going to show you. Let's see. Looks like it's just got 2 bolts, like I said, coming into the frame. So we're going to do 1, 2. We're going to come over to this other side, loosen those 2. So this is a super easy mechanism. It only had 4 bolts attaching the mechanism to the frame, but don't forget what you're going to have to do is release the sockets that hold the footrest mechanism to the footrest as well. So something you'll want to do is you'll want to power up your recliner specifically to extend this downward. That way you have access to your bolts. So if you've already unplugged it, you'll want to plug it back in just for a moment to extend this down. All right, so we got it powered up. Just want to hit our forward button, open this up, and that's all we need. So now we have access to our bolts down here. Okay, so we've got our footrest extended. Now we've got access to our bolts. And usually there's about 2 bolts in the footrest portion. Now this customer, they're missing the frame piece here. Usually you would see usually just 1 bolt on each side, but usually there's a wooden frame piece right here that holds that frame piece into place. Up an extension here. Like I said, some of these are hard to get to if you don't have an extension. There we go. Let's just pop out. And I forgot to mention, if you don't have this socket adapter and can't use something like that, you know, you could still use a ratchet. You would probably obviously need an extension for your ratchet, and they make those in 6, 12, several different variations. And they also, a lot of those socket kits, they come with a screwdriver that would work as well. That's just gonna obviously wear you out a little bit more, but that's okay. If you gotta do it manually, you gotta do it manually. So that should conclude all the bolts that we need to pull out of there. And if you, if this is your first time and you, you know, don't remember where to put everything, take pictures as you go. That way you don't forget what goes where. So now that we've gotten those out, we can put our mechanism back into place. Okay, and that should conclude all of the bolts that needed to be taken out. Now we can just lift this up and it should come right out. And basically the reinstallation is just everything in reverse. Just set it into place, get it set in there, make sure it's aligned, and voila. This one's a lot easier than a lot of the wooden ones that I work on, but like I said, they're all different. If you're working on a wood one and it's got wood screws in the frame, usually there's at least one bolt on the sides here, and those are alignment bolts. You always want to start those first, and that'll help you get the mechanism set where it's supposed to go. So that's where I always start when I'm using those. If you've got a different variation and you need help with it, feel free to holler at us. You can always send us photos to our email. Our email is the323concept@yahoo.com. We'd love to help you out. We've had dozens of folks call or comment and ask us questions on how to do certain things, and we love helping y'all out. So anything you need, we'd love to help. If you've got any questions, feel free to comment. And like I said, this is just reinstalling what we just uninstalled. So some common reasons you may need to actually do this. You know, I'm not just going to show you how to remove a mechanism to remove a mechanism. There's obviously a reason why you would be doing this. And that's one of the #1 issues I see on recliners is the mechanisms are bending. You know, whether it's getting, you know, maybe misused, or whether or not the manufacturer used a gauge of steel that's just too low a quality, that's not holding up the way it should be. You know, it could be a number of things, but regardless, you're having an issue with it, and the mechanism needs to be replaced. So that would be obviously the reason for this. And a lot of people don't know this, but you can get your mechanisms from the vendor or the store where you purchased it. You know, check with them, and it never hurts. You know, it may be discontinued, but a lot of these manufacturers, bigger stores like Ashley, Rooms to Go, you know, wherever it may be, you know, they can replace these mechanisms for you, sometimes for free, but depending on the vendor and how old it is, it never hurts to check with them. Even if you, it may be out of warranty, you can still order the parts and pay for the parts to get them from the vendor. And that's a good way of ensuring that you get the right part for the right model that you have. So good indicators that your mechanism might be messed up are funky noises, or if it feels like it's catching, that's a good indicator that your mechanism is bent. If you flip it on its front side and sort of inspect it, you can usually tell pretty quick if something's out of whack. If it's, you know, it's supposed to be straight. So if you get in there, when you flip it over and it's not straight, if you see some really crooked pieces, then that's obviously what's causing the issue usually. So you can run it a few times, you know, 5 or 10 times, and just keep a close eye on it. And a lot of the times you'll see where it's hitting the frame or what's causing that. And then once you flip it over, that'll give you a good idea of what's going on when you see that. There we go. And we got 2 more bolts here. So, like I said, there's supposed to be a little 1x2 frame piece that goes right here. While I've got this video going, I'm gonna show you how to replace that, because I've seen quite a few customers have those break. And usually, if I were to guess, somebody stepped on it wrong. Maybe you got kids that are getting a little rambunctious. Sometimes they'll step on that area from the top side, and if it's wood or plastic, like most of them are, then it's just not gonna hold up to that, and they'll just break in half. So I'll show you how to replace that. They're, you know, very, very easy to replace. You know, they're not hard, they're not difficult at all. You know, it's just going to be a basic 1x2. So I'm going to grab my tape measure. We're going to measure this distance right here, and we're going to get one of these cut and installed for the customer. Okay, I got a piece cut. And I went ahead and just as a courtesy, you know, most people would probably do this, but I just colored it black so that obviously when it's open, if somebody sees it, you know, it'll sort of match the frame there. Now, if you want to go a little extra on this, you can install an insert nut on the bottom side and use a bolt for this, but these don't get a whole lot of wear and tear, so I'm usually okay with just a little wood screw on both sides, but definitely can use, you can definitely use a bolt and an insert nut if you want to go for maximum stability. And what this is doing, this keeps your footrest much more stable than it would without this. So that's bet they were having a lot of issues with stability on that, so that'll really help them out, I think. Okay, so that basically concludes it. All right, everybody, that concludes our video on how to remove and replace a recliner mechanism. Like I said, there's so many different variations, you know, so I might show you some more in the future. This one was a little bit more, a little easier than most that I see, but some are like that. Some of you luck out, and like I said, this one was a steel frame and only had about 2 bolts on each side, not including the footrest, but this one came out real easy, you know. So basically, you know, it just takes flipping it over sometimes and assessing it. You can get a good idea of how it attaches. But you gotta be careful. Sometimes, like I said, there's some bolts hidden inside there that are real hard to find. But if you extend the footrest, sometimes you have to extend the footrest out to catch some of those. But they'll screw into the side of the arm sometimes. So, you know, if you have any questions, feel free to let us know. Don't forget to comment below if you have any suggestions for future videos. But other than that, thanks again for watching. This was part 3 in our video series of how to repair a power recliner. On the next video, we'll show you how we go about restuffing some of the cushions. On this specific piece, we're going to be redoing the back pillows, but we're also going to be redoing the foam core in the seat. So thanks again for tuning in, and don't forget to check out our next video on how to replace the foam and also how to add filler to the back pillow. Thanks again.